I don't think I've ever been that scared in my life. The breathing was right behind me, hot, heavy, deliberate. I swear I could feel the moisture of it on my neck, each exhale prickling against the tiny hairs on my skin. My whole body tensed, screaming at me not to turn around, not to look. But curiosity, the same cursed instinct that gets people killed in horror movies, forced me. I spun in my chair so fast it nearly toppled over. Nothing. The security office was empty. The monitors in front of me, all black, cast no light. The only glow came from the faint emergency bulbs in the hallway outside, bleeding under the crack of the door. My chest heaved like I'd just sprinted a marathon, sweat soaking the collar of my uniform. I rubbed the back of my neck where I swore I'd felt that breath. Cold. My skin was clammy, but not from sweat alone. The air in the room had changed. It was heavy, like standing inside a pressure chamber. Each breath felt thick, like inhaling water. The storm outside had quieted to a drizzle, yet the building itself seemed louder. Every creak of the beams, every hum of the fluorescent lights, it all pressed in at once, surrounding me, drowning me. I forced myself to mutter, "It's nothing. Just my head. Just my nerves." But then I noticed something odd. The office door. When I came on shift, I remembered it being wide open, propped by the weight of a filing cabinet that never budged. No, it was half closed, just like my bedroom door had been that night back home. I tried to steady my breathing, tried to believe it was the wind, the storm maybe, anything but what my gut was screaming. Slowly I stood, the chair wheels squeaking against the linoleum. The sound made me flinch. It seemed to echo too loud, like the building itself was holding its breath to listen. I reached for the door handle. Cold metal. Too cold. My hand recoiled instinctively. I gritted my teeth, forced myself to grip it, and pulled. The hallway beyond was bathed in a weak, unnatural red glow. The kind of light that comes when the building switches to backup power. But I hadn't heard any generators kick on. I hadn't heard the hum of machines. Just that oppressive silence. Something wasn't right. I backed into the office again, shutting the door, my heart racing like a trapped rabbit. My instinct screamed to run, to get out of the building right now. But when I glanced at the wall where the emergency exit map hung, another realization hit me like a punch in the gut. There was no out. Every exit door on the map had been marked with a glowing red X. I hadn't noticed that before. I stumbled out into the hallway, gripping the flashlight from my belt like a lifeline. Its weak beam cut through the red haze, barely illuminating the walls. I moved quickly, every nerve telling me I had to find an exit. I needed out. The first door I reached was the emergency stairwell. My hands shook as I pressed down on the bar. It didn't budge. I pressed harder, ramming my shoulder against it until my muscles burned. Still locked. A cold draft curled under the gap, brushing against my ankles. Something on the other side was breathing. I backed away fast, heart hammering. The next door was the main lobby exit. I could see it at the end of the hallway, glowing faintly in the emergency lights. I broke into a jog, my footsteps sounding too loud, echoing back like someone was following. When I reached the door, my stomach dropped. It was chained. Thick iron links crisscrossed the push bar, padlocked shut from the outside. I rattled the chain desperately, but it didn't even give a fraction of an inch. My mind raced. Who would chain the exits from the outside? Unless they weren't trying to keep people out. They were trying to keep something in. I turned in a panic, shining my flashlight back down the hallway I'd come from. My breath caught. There was movement at the far end. Something shifted just beyond the reach of the light. A figure, tall, thin, unnatural in its stillness. I blinked and it was gone. The air seemed heavier again. My skin prickled, my instincts screaming. I wasn't alone in here. I forced myself to keep moving. Sitting still wasn't an option. I retraced my steps, back into the side halls where the offices lined up one after another. I shined my light through the glass windows of each door as I passed. Empty desks, chairs overturned, papers scattered. Then I froze. At the far end of the hallway, bathed in the dim red glow, was a figure. It stood perfectly still, facing me. Its head tilted, slow, deliberate, almost curious. Every muscle in my body screamed to run, but my legs refused. The thing didn't move closer. It didn't advance. Just watched. I whispered, barely audible even to myself. "What the hell are you?" It tilted its head again, and then the lights flickered. For a split second, the hall plunged into darkness. When they came back, the figure was gone. No footsteps, no sound, nothing but the faint hum of the dying lights. I forced myself forward, step by step, every shadow shifting in the corner of my vision. My flashlight began to flicker, sputtering weakly. I smacked it against my palm, begging it not to die. When I passed the spot where the figure had been, the air was colder, heavy with something I can only describe as wrong. Like walking through a graveyard at midnight, with the certainty that something unseen is breathing right over your shoulder. That's when the elevator dinged. The sound was sharp, mechanical, echoing down the hall. I whipped my head toward it, my heart in my throat. The elevator doors slid open on their own. Light spilled out. Not the harsh white I was used to, but something dimmer, almost yellow like candlelight. I took a cautious step closer, flashlight trembling in my grip. And that's when I heard them. Whispers. Faint at first, like wind rustling through leaves. Then clearer, voices overlapping, dozens of them. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Pleading. Begging. I froze outside the threshold. The air inside the elevator was colder, thick with the smell of damp earth and rust. The whispers grew louder, pressing against my ears, against my skull, like they were inside my head. "Hello," croaked, my voice breaking. The voices stopped. Dead silence. I should have walked away. I should have ignored it, gone back to the office and barricaded myself inside. But instead I stepped in. The doors slid shut behind me. The elevator groaned, the buttons flickering with light. And then, with a jolt that rattled my bones, it began to descend. I watched the floor numbers blink past. L1, L2, L3, then blank. The numbers vanished, replaced by nothing but a glowing dash. The car rattled violently, as though it was being pulled deeper than it was ever meant to go. My stomach twisted with each jolt, my ears popping from the pressure. Finally, with a metallic screech, the elevator shuddered to a stop. The doors groaned open. Pitch black. My flashlight flickered, casting a weak beam down a long, narrow corridor. The walls were rough concrete, pipes running overhead, dripping water that echoed into the void. The air smelled of mold and rot. I stepped out. The elevator doors closed behind me with a final clang. When I spun around, the panel where the call button should have been was gone. Just a smooth concrete wall. My only way was forward. The corridor stretched into darkness, every step echoing like a gunshot. My flashlight beam swept across rusted machinery, old filing cabinets, even a broken wheelchair lying on its side. None of it made sense. This level wasn't supposed to exist. And then I saw it. An old wooden door at the very end, half rotten, a faint light seeping through the cracks. I reached for the handle. The room inside was small, lit by a single flickering bulb dangling from the ceiling. Files, stacks and stacks of them, spilling from cabinets, scattered across the floor. Newspaper clippings pinned to the walls with yellowed tape. I bent down, picked up one of the papers. Local worker missing after night shift. Date: 1973. I picked another. Janitor vanishes, no trace found. Date: 1986. Every clipping told the same story. Someone disappearing during the night shift. Security guards, janitors, nurses. Different decades, different faces, but always the same ending. My heart thudded painfully as I scanned the wall. My eyes landed on a photo pinned dead center, clearer than the rest. It was me. Same uniform, same face, same goddamn scar above my left eyebrow. Dated 2023. I dropped the paper, stumbling back, bile rising in my throat. My hands trembled violently. I didn't want to believe it, but the truth pressed in on me. I wasn't the first. And I wasn't meant to leave. The bulb overhead flickered violently, buzzing, the room spinning with shadow. My ears filled with whispers again, louder, angrier this time. I stumbled for the door, yanking it open. And suddenly I was back in the lobby. The elevator doors behind me were shut tight. My flashlight clattered to the ground. I turned toward the office. The glow of the CCTV monitors spilled out into the hall. My breath caught in my chest. Every screen was lit again. And every hallway on every monitor showed the same figure. The tall, shadowy presence, head tilted, standing motionless. Only now, in each feed it was closer, closer, closer. I staggered back into the office, my knees weak, my lungs tight. The air was suffocating, the hum of the monitors deafening. I spun from screen to screen, heart racing. The figures were everywhere, closing in from every direction. Then my eyes fell on the bottom right feed. It wasn't a hallway. It was me. The camera showed my back, live, inside the same office, the monitors glowing in front of me. The angle was wrong, impossible. It was being filmed from inside the room. I spun around, but there was nothing. And then I felt it. Hot, heavy breathing right at my neck. The monitors cut to static. The room plunged into black, and I knew I wasn't alone. But what I saw next, what was standing right behind me, will haunt me forever. If you think the horror ends here, you're wrong. Part 3 is coming, and it reveals what's been hunting me all along. Subscribe now because you do not want to miss what happens next.